Welcome back. Today we're going to harvest some of every herb that I have. This is lovage, as you may already know, and it grew up. It says it grows up 6 feet, but it's mainly the flower stalk that grows up 6 feet. And it came out with its flower heads, but it doesn't have any seeds. The flower heads come out and they just dried up. You see, that's all I got. And the seeds that I had to originally grow this plant looks something like a parsnip seed. And this is just dried flowers. Almost as if the flowers didn't open up, and I was looking at them and they didn't seem to open up. So that's a weird thing. I noticed some leaves that were dying. At first there were some bugs on them, and then when I looked it over further, I noticed that it was only the leaves on the flower stalks. You see the leaves down here that's coming up from the main base, they're growing just fine. But on the flower stalk, they all dried up, and now even the stalk itself seems to be drying. I was looking at a recipe and they were talking about dried celery stakes. And so what I'm going to do is cut the flower stalk off right close to the ground. I think I can. I'm going to use pruners, because these other leaves, they're growing up right from the base, as I say. So if I take the pruners, snip that off. This one. That one. A little bit of something to note, not all of them are coming right up from the base. You see, I've got a piece coming off here, and that piece looks to be relatively healthy. This piece was near the base, but it was wrapped around one of the other flower stalks. So for now, I'm just going to do that and see how that fares. If I had done this earlier, it might have sent up more flower stalks, because it looks like they're trying to do that, but we'll see. So this is what I have, and we'll go in and I'll take off all the dead pieces and anything that doesn't look very good, and I'll chop this up and I'll put it in the dryer. Lavender flowers are spent. You can see that they're fading now. At this point, you remember before I had a purple and a blue one, and there's still a slight bit of difference in shade, but not very much. It's not enough to notice. Now, as for them fading, here's the white lavender here, and it's starting to fade as well, but not all. Bees are still on it, so the bees are going to have to go elsewhere now, because I'm going to cut back all the flowers on the lavender. To do that, I'll take my trusty harvesting bowl here, and I just need the scissors. And I'm going to cut these right back to the main part of the green growth. Then I have to decide. I watched two videos, one from Faye Auto Homestead, she cut the flowers off, and then she cut back the greenery. Then I watched another video where the lady said you harvest lavender twice per year. Once when the flowers are starting to fade, and she said it's possible that you would get a second flush of flowers. Whereas Ruth from Fayallow Homestead, she done hers all at once. So I'm going to watch those videos again to decide whether or not I should actually cut back this stuff down here. The other part about cutting back greenery too is, will it be overgrown by the time the growing season is out? This is August the 13th, so we have a month and a half of this stuff growing. Almost 2 months before the first frost, if it's average frost. Getting lavender oil all over my hand. And you see, this is what I was talking about. This is overgrown now. It's out here in the pathway, and it's out here in the pathway on this side. And I'm going to have to cut it back into the woody growth here. And back to the woody growth here. So I could better get on to that. Now this one is still quite small. I don't know why he's small still. Maybe because of last year, the big catnip, but I'll let that one grow on there, and I'll cut this one back somewhat. But I'll have to do that later, because now I've got a beautiful bunch of lavender flowers. I'm gonna keep them, put them off separate, and decide what to do with them. Some people hang them up, some people put them in their clothes drawer. I'm thinking about hanging them up and seeing if they will dry nicely just in that shape. This is my oldest lavender, and it definitely needs to be cut back. Got almost as much from that one white lavender plant as I did from the 2 other plants. I don't have a peg out here, but there's a peg here and a peg here. Back some other videos ago, I was talking about trying to keep them within a 2 foot by half the bed, which is the first thing I have to do. Whether that's back into the hardwood or not is irrelevant. Now, so what I want to do, I've got a kind of a squarish thing to come up and round off and round off out this way. And I think keeping it at that size would be about what I want to do. Now I've cut off the bigger stuff. I'm just going to snip it like you're finalizing a haircut. Leave it something like that now. Next year it'll be even better. Now here's an interesting thing. I was busy and this parsley said, forget it, I'm going to flower. And look at how all the flower stalks is up. And look at all the little flower, little parsley seedlings that's growing around. Including out in the pathway. And this is one place where I have a real problem with the lamb sorrel. So this is going to be a weed and harvest at the same time. I'll pull up the lamb sorrel and stick it there in a pile. Now in here, see, I'm going to have the parsley going across here, the full width of the bed. So I have to pull up all of this. And because the lamb sorrel's in among it, I'll have to pick it out once I got it pulled up. You see, parsley is related to the carrot. That's going to take quite some time, but I got a bunch here now and I'll just chop the roots off, throw that in the barrel. Early in the morning now, the next morning. This is the green lemon thyme, and I'm putting this out because when I was talking about this one in an earlier video, I was initially cutting it back and you can still see some of the brown, but the greenery is coming up here, so I can cut it back and it will cover in with greenery again. And basically, well, I have to cut this back. Actually, this will be the second time after that other video that I will be cutting this back. This is going to be my first serious cutting of broadleaf sage. I don't know if I should have cut them before the flowers faded or no. I'd say they've got seeds now out around, and I'm going to have sage plants growing up everywhere next year. But when I tried sage before, I didn't get them growing very large. So that's why. This is going to be my first serious cutting of broadleaf sage. I am going to cut these couple of lovage out of the way. Hopefully I remember to bring them in so that you can see better what I'm cutting at here. So I'll do this side over here first. Basically I'm just going to lean it out a bit and cut it back to the pegs that I have in. You see now I have two different textures of leaves here. Basically these rougher textures what the flower stalks were on, and the smoother texture is what the is growing up new from down below. I don't have much garden grown sage in the house, so I'm going to try and take it all from this one. Whereas with the thyme and that, if I lose some, I lose some, it doesn't matter. And that's the harvest for broadleaf sage. The Greek oregano I'm going to have quite a bunch because, as you may already know, I have 2 more patches of this. This is the harvest for green lemon thyme. Now, as you can see, once you get these herbs growing, having to pick out these stems once you got it dry won't be an issue, because you get it nice and dry, you crush it up, shake out all the crushed leaves, and if you lose, throw some leaves out with the stems afterwards. Who cares, you'll get lots more. Savory seems to grow a little slower, but it is coming along, and I am basically going to do the same as I just said about the Greek oregano. That is, dry it out and not fight with getting out every last leaf. I don't know how high this will grow, you see, but I think I have to keep trimming the top because it's growing up in longer stems now. If I keep trimming the top, it should grow bushier, I think. For now, I'll just leave it like that. Here's what I cut off. Echinacea. This is putting on more and more flowers every year. I have yet to do anything with that. I think it's the roots you use on echinacea. At some point I will get around to actually harvesting that and doing whatever I'm supposed to do with it. Picking flowers, I use a smaller container because you're not going to get a whole lot anyway in volume size. I always feel sorry for the bees when I'm picking the flowers that they're trying to pollinate, but there's plenty of flowers around here, so it's not like they'll go hungry. You see a lot of the flowers have turned brown. I was actually picking some wild St. John's wort the last few times I harvested St. John's wort, so I'm getting quite a lot. I didn't realize that St. John's wort was growing wild here in the cove. So there's way more than what I need now. And I will probably harvest some more, so I'll have a abundance of it. This is not the only plant I have. I have like 4 more plants. St. John's wort is a anti-anxiety, antidepressant type herb. Good for getting you a good night's sleep, that kind of thing. Now, when you're talking about St. John's wort, this is the erect version. There is also another plant, a ground cover, that they call St. John's wort. It's a different plant altogether, and it doesn't have the medicinal properties. California poppy, technically you can use the entire plant for a tea, but of course the flowers will be the strongest, and so that's all I have done so far, is just to take the flowers. And right now I have quite a few of the flowers that have pollinated, So when they dry, I will make sure that the seeds are spread along here. I'm going to take up all of the flowers that are currently fresh here now. And that's what I'm saving. That's for sleepy time tea. It's a very delicious tea. And of course there's chamomile. This is my only big patch this year. Some of the flowers are gone faded, and I'm going to leave them there. They'll go all the way to seed and drop their seed for next year. I'm just going to take the ones now that are fully straight open like this. The chamomile, it's like picking berries. Now you put the little hip trug on your side and you drop them in there. And that's a few cups of tea right there. If you think about the price of a packet of chamomile tea, works up to a great savings pretty fast from that little tiny patch. Just that one harvest I got that much, and that'll keep producing now right up until frost. That's the herb harvest I'm going to do for the middle of August. It'll probably be the last herb harvest video for this year. Lots of other harvest videos coming up very soon. So I hope you enjoyed it, and hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and come back for more.